politician versus the incumbent bureaucrat, the politician, the guy that's been part of the problem. It's going to be a throw the bums out kind of election, right? And in that election, I can win because it's obvious which one of us is the career politician, which one is the bum, and that's Dick Blumenthal. You know, maybe he can say I wasn't in Washington. Well, he was in Hartford. That's just as bad. I mean, Connecticut is a mess fiscally. He's been there for 20 years. He's a lawyer, right? Nobody likes lawyers. No one likes politicians. He's both. You know, we don't need another lawyer politician in Washington. We got a ton of them. What we don't have in Washington is someone that understands economics, someone that's run a financial business, someone that understands Wall Street, someone that was predicting the economic collapse, not somebody that was blindsided when it came. So that's what's unique about me. And, you know, I've never been involved in politics either in Hartford or Washington. You know, and I don't think, you know, if Simmons is the nominee, he can't make that case. He can't distance himself from Washington when he was there for 6 years. He can't distance himself from Bush when he supported him with his votes. The independents are going to respect me because I criticized Bush. I was a big critic of his on national television when he was doing the wrong thing, when he was bailing companies out, when he was trying to stimulate, when he was running up big deficits, when he refused to veto any of these deficits. I was out there calling him out on it. I was criticizing him. So I've got credibility on this issue. Other Republicans don't. You criticize Obama, well, where were you when Bush was doing the same thing, right? I was there. I'm consistent. So Simmons really, I don't think he can win a race between an incumbent Republican or a career politician on the Republican side, career Democrat in a blue state. He'll win. I think McMahon can try to make the argument that I am, that it's an outsider, but I don't think she has the economic understanding that I do. And I think she's got more baggage as far as the wrestling. And I know she's got a lot of money, but I think the Democrats are going to neutralize that because they're going to see that coming. They know it's there. If McMahon is a nominee, they're not just going to surrender this seat. They're going to know it's going to come down to bucks, and they're going to get it. They'll get it from Hollywood. They'll get it from Wall Street. Barack Obama will bring the big guns because they don't want to have another Scott Brown. They don't want to lose the Dodd seat after they lost the Kennedy seat. So they will raise enough money, and it'll be a nuclear war in this state. And, you know, Linda McMahon has already spent, $15 million. She's still way behind Dick Blumenthal, and there hasn't been a single negative ad run against her yet. And her negatives are already very high. Again, with no negative ads. What's going to happen when the Democrats bring in their $50 million war chest and start bombarding it? So if I'm the nominee, I don't even think they're just going to assume that I'm going to lose. They're just going to say, okay, we don't need any money. Let's focus on other states. Dick Blumenthal's got this in the bag. They're going to underestimate me. They're going to underestimate Connecticut. I've got a lot of support in this state. I got the Tea Parties. I got a lot of enthusiastic supporters in these Tea Parties. These guys are concerned. They're motivated. They'll be out there. They'll be pounding the pavement, ringing the doorbells, making the phone calls. I got people all around the country that are concerned about this country, that know me, and that feel that I'm the best chance that we have of turning this situation around. They'll help. I'll be able to fundraise. You know, I'll get volunteers. And I think I can win the race. I think I represent the best contrast to Dick Blumenthal. And if the race goes the way I think it's going to go, I'm the best person to win. And more important, it actually means something if I win. You know, things might actually change. You know, I think if my opponents win, I mean, I don't see that there's going to be anything different. There are plenty of Republicans that are already in the Senate. And look at the mess this country is in. I don't know that anybody else going there other than me is going to make a difference. I'm confident that I will make a difference. And if I thought there was somebody else that could do what I was going to do, I'd step down and support him. Because personally, I'd rather stay in the private sector.
Thank you very much. Do we have a question?
Yeah, I'd like the question answered. What are you going to do with the second set of books with the Federal Reserve and the Fannie Mae scandal? They are two things that are thorns in our side that's not going to go away.
Yeah,
we have to have accountability on both counts.
Yeah, Fannie and Freddie, I was a big critic of Fannie and Freddie years back. I wrote in my book, Crash Proof, that they would go bankrupt. I knew they would go bankrupt, even when the stock was at $70 a share. I knew that they would go bankrupt. I actually wasn't short. I had some clients who got puts, but I wasn't short personally. But I've been thinking they were going to go bankrupt for years. But because I knew that ultimately the mortgages that they insured would go bad.
Yeah, but they're not going to go down. They're not going to go bankrupt.
Well, they are
won't let
bankrupt.
them
They
have
already
it.
are. The government took them over.
$385 billion already.
Yeah, but the federal government's got it. They already had it.
But here is the problem. Here's the problem, sir. Freddie and Fannie were part of the problem. One of the reasons that people were able to overpay for houses was because Freddie and Fannie guaranteed the mortgages. People couldn't get mortgages to buy houses they couldn't afford unless Freddie and Fannie were there to guarantee the loan. It was the U.S. government that was co-signing everybody's mortgages. So the lenders didn't really care if the borrowers could repay. And that was the moral hazard that helped blow the air into the housing bubble. Now, the government should have let Freddie and Fannie go bankrupt. They should not exist. People should be buying houses based on their own creditworthiness, not based on the U.S. government creditworthiness. And the problem is now they're even more entrenched than they were before. The government, through Fannie and Freddie and FHA, is guaranteeing 97% of every mortgage in this country. The only reason people
know that for a fact because my bank sold it to Fannie Mae, and our credit is excellent. They sold it to Fannie Mae so they can get their money back.
But the problem is, housing prices are still too high. People are buying houses with low down payments. They're going to walk from these mortgages. The losses are going to be horrific. There is $6 trillion of liabilities on the books of Fannie and Freddie that are now on the books of the federal government, but they're off the books because the government is lying about them because it doesn't include them in their liabilities, in their phony accounting statements. But this is going to cause bigger losses for American taxpayers. The government is refusing. See, housing prices coming down is not a problem. That's the solution. The problem was they went up. They never should have gone up to that level. They wouldn't have gone up without all the government subsidies. But now in order to keep housing prices propped up, they have to destroy the economy because they have to keep interest rates artificially low. They have to keep printing money, and that is the problem. And it is a ticking time bomb, and you're right. And it's not just Fannie and Freddie. It's Social Security. It's Medicare. It's student loans. It's all the things. It's underfunded government pensions. All these ticking time bombs that are out there that are polluting the federal balance sheet that they're not talking about. I want to deal with them, and I want to deal with them right now.
Here, one last question.
Yeah, this is the last one.
The next bomb. Who's there to bail? There's no one there to bail us out the next time. Is the whole problem? There's no one else. I mean, that's the thing. When this happens again, there is no more bailout.
Well,
there's nothing left.
Well, that's because all we've done, all the government did in this last bailout was transfer all the bad debt from the books of the private companies that willingly incurred it to the books of the federal government, to the Federal Reserve, to the Treasury. So the losses haven't disappeared. We just all owe them as Americans. And now they're getting bigger, right? The U.S. economy's fundamentals are worsening because of what the government is doing. We're going deeper into debt. Our trade deficit is growing again. Our savings rate is shrinking again. We are doing all the sins that created the problem. And when this government bubble bursts, and that's what we've inflated, this gigantic government bubble, there is no one to bail out the U.S. government because nobody is that big, right? We can't all bail out ourselves. We are broke. And as I said, the form it's going to take is the government's going to try to have the Fed bail us out. The government's going to try to print our way out of this, and that does not work. That leads to runaway inflation. That leads to civil unrest. That leads to a real decay in our society. And the big problem is, that's when the government usurps even more power. That's when we really have to be on guard for what's left of our liberties and constitutional rights. Because whenever the government creates a problem, they blame capitalism, and the solution is always bigger and more government. If we only surrender more of our rights, if we only let the government take care of us, then we'll be okay. They'll protect us from evil capitalists and greedy people who want to rip us off, and just trust the government. And that's it. And this country is going to collapse. I talked about investing abroad. What's really the trend now is for people, young Americans, to leave the country because they don't have any opportunity here. The people who want to move, we're talking about an immigration problem. We are developing an immigration problem. And it's starting with the best and the brightest, the hardest working people in this country want to leave. And the children of immigrants, this is really sad. People who are children of Chinese immigrants, Indian immigrants, they want to leave. There's actually so many American Chinese going back to China that the Chinese actually have a word to describe them, and it literally translates into sea turtles because they're returning home to lay their eggs. And when the newspapers that interview these ask them, why do you want to go back to China? The answer is opportunity. They want to go to China for the same reason their parents wanted to come to America. That's not good. Right? People think that we're leaving all these debts to our kids. The kids are going to leave the debts to us because they're going to leave. There's a whole world out there that isn't going to tax them, it isn't going to regulate them, and that's where they're going to go. So we have to stop that trend before it intensifies.
Wow. Okay. Well.